Dear viewers, with the diversification of new types of tourism like health and wellness tourism, medical, along with cultural and recreational tourism, the tourism sector in Egypt is growing, and there are efforts, of course, to make it grow even further. Through adopting different strategies, like offering a more genuine experience with the home-like environment, spacious rooms, fully equipped kitchen, free wireless connection, complimentary breakfast, on-site laundry service, etc. The operators are focusing on addressing the needs of dynamic customers in order to score more extended stays. Promoting the Egyptian tourism sector is a key element of success in this vital sector. So we'll be talking about the promotion of the Egyptian tourism sector and about the new types of tourism that exists nowadays with tourist counselor Dr. Yahya Abdel Qader here on Nile Cruise. Dr. Abdel Qader, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
And sir, let me start by talking about the promotion of the tourism sector. How do you see the strategies for promotion nowadays working, and what's your advice for other forms of promotion perhaps that would help the sector even more?
Generally, really, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities is conducting, a very vigorous, strategy, a solid one, operated and supervised by Dr. Ahmed Isa, Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, and his associates. For example, we are on the verge, inshallah, soon of opening the Grand Egyptian Museum. And now we're going through the process of soft opening. That's why on a weekly basis, like last week, we had the Art Cairo. And this is beautiful, because we have a display, of painting and artwork of local and international painters and artists as well. And that was gathering, lots of scholars, of artists, of fans who love art. And it was like an introduction to go through, the soft opening of the museum, to check, its facilities, its capacities, and that a herald, that inshallah is going to be opening soon. The same thing, Dr. Ahmed Ghanem at the Fustat Museum for Civilization 10 days ago, they had a great, event to promote Egyptian gastronomy. And there was really, it's a great event because, as we know, the UNESCO and World Heritage Association, they promote both tangible and intangible tourism, and food and music and costumes and poetry and art, and cuisine. As part of this, it accounts for around 15 to 20% of the gross revenues of the tourism industry, which is nearly 250 billion, US dollars. So museums now are doing its role, as an active culture, support and supplement for the opera houses, for the theater, for the museum, because, visitors come to Egypt, and they like to sample, and go through everything, the music, the song, the costumes, shopping malls, speak with the locals, as we do, when we leave Egypt and go to other destinations as well. So that's why, we are doing a very good strategy, and we can later talk about, the travel exhibition, in main capital of the world.
Right. The exhibitions abroad are also playing a role in promoting, I guess, the most renowned form of tourism in Egypt, cultural tourism, and that talks about ancient Egypt. So could you tell us about the latest in that regard?
Really, we have, around from 40 to 60 international travel shows worldwide, all the way from Japan to San Francisco. And just last week, we had the Salon de Voyage and Top Reza in Paris. And this is a very, solid exhibit that has been going for half a century. And Egypt had an excellent pavilion over there. And the chairman of Egyptian Tourist Authority was there with the tour operators, with the airlines, with the Tour Guides Association. So it's an excellent way, to promote travel. And Egyptian Tourism Authority, in association with Havas, which is one of the largest tour operators in France, are doing fam trips and conducting workshops to induct, like the workers and the staff in these agencies, which is like premier ones in Europe, to tell them about like updates, what's going on in Egypt. Like we opened the Fustat Museum. We're on the verge of opening the Grand Egyptian. We had, like the archaeological discoveries in Saqqara and Dashur, in Luxor and Aswan, and Alexandria as well, West Alexandria. And then we have, like more airports, like opening and operation now Sphinx. And there are German airlines who are flying directly over there. And then we have the museums, the museum that newly opened in Hagara, Kafr Sheikh, and there is a small museum at the Cairo airport as well. So all these updates, like with the pricing, with the developments, with the opening, tour operators and tour guides and travel agents worldwide, they need to be informed so they can use it in doing the travel packages and promote travel to Egypt.
Yes. What new forms of promotion, Dr. Abdel Qader, exist nowadays? I mean, when we advertise or publicize or promote our tourism sector here in Egypt, I don't know, using the new media tools, the social media and so on. Could you tell us about the new forms of promotion that...
Yes, really, like we are lucky because Egypt is quite known like for about like 4,000 or 5,000 years from now. So like world media, like Finance Nachrichten, which is like one of the top German circulation last week, they were recommending, like to its, like reviewers and audiences that they travel to Egypt through the harsh, severe winter that's Europe going through, because Egypt, like is accessible and affordable for the average tourist, and they can enjoy the food, the fare, the fair weather and everything we have. The same thing happening with National Geographic. Same thing happening with the Telegraph and the Sun. So world media really is doing this like for us, like gratis, because they need to inform the audiences about the best destination they go to and trip
What about social media?
Yeah, social media is really one of the main, like ways and instruments, like that everywhere in the world. And that's why, for example, last week, Ministry of Tourism were hosting a fam trip from Bahrain. So we're approaching like the Gulf states, and they were visiting the administrative capital, the Cairo Egyptian Museum, like the pyramids, and they've been with them. And they went to many of the associations in Egypt on 5-6 days, because social media and fam trips is very important. And now they generate about 40 to 60% of world travel and circulation worldwide.
Yeah. And Dr. Abdel Qader, what about the new types of tourism? I don't know if the health and wellness tourism would be considered a new type, or medical tourism. But what about progress in those types?
Well, really we are doing well, like because of the expertise of, like of Egypt, like as a healing, like ground for medical experience worldwide. And I see like international visitors, they're going through all the medical centers in Egypt, like from all over the world. They go to Mansoura, like they go to have a world reputation really as a medical hub for treatment, and, like have an excellent record as well. But again, like in the areas like Hagara and Sharm el-Sheikh, some of the establishment are doing, like for health and wellness and for well-being. They're doing resorts, like, and they are catering it and announcing it to their clientele worldwide. So this is a great approach. And again, we have the wedding, festivals. And remember a month ago, we had, like 400 people flying from India to celebrate, like the wedding in Sharm el-Sheikh, and coming from Hyderabad. So these are the new types who are promoting, and we have events and exhibitions and incentives that many companies, local, international, are doing events in Egypt around the clock.
Yes, and Dr. Abdel Qader, the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has launched a number of initiatives. How far did these initiatives drive the growth of tourism?
For example, like it's very accessible now to get visas, like online to visit Egypt, So this is one of the episodes. Again, like the security, like measures that we offer to our guests. And again, we receive them, like at the airports in Aswan, in Luxor, in Sphinx Airport, in Hurghada, because we've been having direct flights, for example, from Spain going to Luxor, because they love to come to Luxor in the winter. We have great French tours, and now the cruise is up the Nile, 4 days and 7 days and 10 days. It's in vogue. And I know from tour guides, and all of them, they are up in Egypt now, enjoying the fair weather. And they have, for example, like lots of travel and traffic coming from the USA, Canada and Europe and Asia as well. We start resuming flights again from Japan, from China, and from Russia. So really we have a solid, season this year. Inshallah, we'll be doing a record number.
How do you evaluate the role of hotels? First of all, during the holding of different types of conferences, what is now known as conference tourism, and also in trying to attract more customers and by giving them offers and new services.
Yeah, really. Remember, Egypt now is becoming a hub for international conventions and conferences and meetings. For around 4 years, and consequently, we used to do the World Youth Forum, and that was a great gathering, by 5,000-6,000 participants. And then last year, we did the COP27, which was like a global event as well. So Egypt has been certified, as a great location and destination for meetings, incentives, conventions, exhibitions. And we are gaining, world trust and confidence in conducting these in a first-class performance and target as well.
Dr. Abdel Qader, boosting tourism, of course, is one of the essential goals of the government. Would you please highlight the latest cooperation between ministries, different ministries and bodies to achieve this target?
Yeah, really, for example, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is, most ambassadors I know, I am, following up on what goes outside Egypt, and they do event, they do exhibition, they attend the events, and they invite, Egyptian, intellectuals, to speak about the civilization, the culture. There was an event in Italy, last week, and that was in our ambassador, in London, they were having evidence just like last night, talking all about Egyptian civilization, antiquities and culture and heritage. And there's a student exchange, for example, at the College of Mass Comm, Cairo University. And there's good news, Ain Shams is going to open a College of Mass Comm next year. So these colleges and the graduates, are doing, great job by communicating with the world, and we encourage them as educators, to link with the outside world and show them, the great, achievements of our civilization.
All right, Dr. Yahya Abdel Qader, Tourist Counselor. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Dear viewers, please stay with us. We'll be back here on Nile Cruise after this break.